Let's talk about Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints. As I record this video, they are 4-8 on the season. And they may be 5-8 as you listen to this video because their next game is against the New York Giants. With that being said, the New Orleans Saints are stuck in mediocrity. They've been stuck in mediocrity since Drew Brees went out there and he retired. The year after Drew Brees retired, you saw Sean Payton coach his last season with the New Orleans Saints, and he had Jameis Winston at the starting quarterback position. When I look at the current state of the New Orleans Saints, it's not 100% terrible. It's a lot of positives, but it's a lot of negatives also. And I want to start off from the point to where Sean Payton retired. When Sean Payton stepped down from the New Orleans Saints, he basically saw the writing on the wall. This team is in cap hell right now. They've been kicking the can down the road for many years. Hell, they were even doing that when Drew Brees was still on the roster because they're trying to get the most out of the roster at that current moment. And it always brings me back to that playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams. If they call pass interference in that situation, I do believe the New Orleans Saints would go to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that they would go out there and win the Super Bowl, but unfortunately, they did not call the pass interference play for the New Orleans Saints. When I look at this situation, Mickey Loomis has been a general manager since 2000. That's almost 25 years a man has been sitting in that seat. He's done a lot of good things, but over the last few years, it's been a lot of negative things. He's found a way to go out there and manipulate the cap over and over again. But eventually, this is the NFL. This is not baseball. You have a salary cap for a reason. This is going to come back and bite you. And every single year, they have dealt with cap issues. The biggest cap issue is Cameron Jordan and also Derek Carr. And I want to start off with Cameron Jordan. Cameron Jordan, over the last few years, has not been the same pass rusher. As a matter of fact, the last time that we saw Cameron Jordan go out there and have a double-digit sack season was in 2021. Since then, it's been a huge drop-off. In 2022, he had 8.5 sacks. He was still a very good pass rusher, a very good run stopper, but you saw him take a step back. Over the last 2 seasons, he has not been a good player on the defensive side of the ball. 2 sacks last season, 1 sack this season, 1 interception. And I understand a lot of Saint fans may say he's a rotational pass rusher at this stage of his career. I agree with that. So why would you go out there and pay him the contract extension that you paid him? That's a lot of money to give to a guy like Cameron Jordan, who is just a rotational pass rusher at this stage of his career. Great locker room guy. He is still the last guy that's hanging around from the Sean Payton era. You could have gave him a veteran minimum or just a little bit more to keep him on the roster. And if you want to have a guy that could be a rotational pass rusher, you draft a defensive end in the 4th or 5th round and you let them get their moments here and there while you have a veteran in front of them. And I'm talking about a veteran like a Chase Young. And it brings me to Chase Young. Chase Young this season has not been a good defensive player. We've seen him go in the backfield and miss the quarterback, miss out on tackles, take plays off. That is why he has never been seen as a top defensive player in the NFL. Coming out of the Ohio State University, he was a highly coveted player. They got drafted by the Washington Commanders, and it's the reason why they moved him to the San Francisco 49ers. Chase Young is not a terrible player, but he's not the ideal pass rusher to have with the New Orleans Saints. You do have 2 very good pass rushers and Brian Bresee, who is a phenomenal defensive tackle that you drafted out of Clemson a year ago. He's a great player. And you also have Carl Granderson, who led the team in sacks last season. They have good players on this defense. The problem is they have a lot of aging players. And this is why I want to get you guys' help in the comment section below. Do you think that they should go out there right now and basically gut this defense? Dennis Allen is no longer the head coach. They fired him a month ago, and rightfully so. And the only reason why they elevated him to become the head coach right after Sean Payton stepped down is because he was an assistant for Sean Payton for so long. He's the former defensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. And when you effectively want to keep the same culture around that Sean Payton built, you're going to call up his coaches. Dennis Allen was a terrible move to have as a head coach because he was a terrible head coach with the then Oakland Raiders. And you already know when they called up Dennis Allen to become the head coach, he was basically at the hip with Pete Carmichael, who has been with Sean Payton his entire NFL career. He's even now in the Denver Broncos coaching staff as a senior offensive consultant. He was the offensive coordinator. He will go down as the worst offensive coordinator in New Orleans Saints history. Pete Carmichael was terrible. They should have went out there and brought in a brand new coaching staff with a brand new philosophy. They wanted to keep the Sean Payton era alive, even though the man was out of the door. I call it the Sean Payton ghost, and they're still dealing with that to this day, even though that Dennis Allen is out of the building, because you still have a lot of guys that are with Sean Payton. They're still in his coaching staff. You look at your interim head coach. I don't believe that he's the right guy long term. So Mickey Loomis has done a lot of bad things over the last few years by extending players that he shouldn't have extended, going after veteran guys like Chase Young that don't fit the roster, that are not good defensive players on an every down basis, and going out there and basically elevating defensive coordinators to become head coaches when they shouldn't have been head coaches to begin with. Another mistake that Mickey Loomis has made was going out there and bringing in Derek Carr. That was on Mickey Loomis and Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen helped coach up Derek Carr with the Oakland Raiders at the time. And I understand they wanted to bring in a true franchise quarterback. Derek Carr is not that. The last year with Sean Payton, you had Jameis Winston, and you also had Andy Dalton. Those are not going to be your quarterback options for the future. I look at a guy like Derek Carr. He's not a terrible quarterback, but he's not going to bring you a Super Bowl. He's not going to make you a major playoff contender. He's one of the most controversial quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's very frustrating because Derek Carr is not a horrible player. And you're going to hear me say this a lot in this video. The Saints don't have horrible players on this roster. The team as a whole just is not good because of their head coach in the past with Dennis Allen and a lot of the dumb things they do on the field. But when I look at Derek Carr, he's a middle of the road quarterback. You have Spencer Rattler who is sitting behind him. Derek Carr did miss time this season dealing with an oblique injury, and we got to see Spencer Rattler. I'm going to say this right now. I don't believe that Spencer Rattler is going to be the franchise guy, but it is a chance that he can be their franchise quarterback. For one, he should have never started a single game this season. That was more so on Dennis Allen than anyone else. Jake right now is a better quarterback than Spencer Rattler. We saw this kid go out there against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in his first game starting. He showed you a lot of good moments, but he showed you some bad moments also. And on short week's notice, the next game was against the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton returns home and they blow out the New Orleans Saints. They lose to the Denver Broncos in devastating fashion. He got outcoached by Sean Payton, and you saw Spencer Rattler not have the best day. This kid was placed into a tough situation too much too soon. He did not have his two top receiving targets, no Rashid Shaheed, no Chris Olave, and the offensive line was banged up. So Spencer Rattler could be the future of the New Orleans Saints, but right now he's not ready for that spot. And it brings me right back to Derek Carr. Derek Carr on the season has good numbers, but Derek Carr in his career has always put up good numbers. Derek Carr, when you actually watch film and you watch him play, he isn't the best quarterback to have on a weekly basis for star wide receivers. Chris Olave has dealt with concussions pretty much his entire career, even dating back to college, but especially with Derek Carr, because Derek Carr will throw guys into coverage. He's done this over and over again. He even did this with the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr doesn't have the accuracy to lead wide receivers up the field or get wide receivers out of certain positions. But we've seen Derek Carr go out there and basically put Chris Olave's life on the line at times. The reason why this man has been out for the last month is because he's dealing with a concussion that he suffered against the Carolina Panthers. And the concussion that he suffered before his head, the back of his head hit the turf. That wasn't on Derek Carr. That was not on the quarterback. That was just an unfortunate play. Those type of plays do happen. But when I look at Derek Carr, he's not bad enough to get rid of, but he's not great enough to keep on a roster for the next 5+ years. And they gave him a massive contract extension when they first signed him when the Las Vegas Raiders moved off of him. So to move off of Derek Carr is going to be $60 million in dead cap space if you want to move off of Derek Carr and cut him. I'm more so in tune with this. You keep Derek Carr around for one more season and you build up this offensive line and you fire Mickey Loomis. Ryan Ramczyk has missed this entire season because he's dealing with a knee injury. The man went out there and had a knee procedure and it went wrong. His body did not react to the procedure in the right way. So he missed his entire season. It forced him to draft Talasay Fuaga in the first round. And by the way, he has struggled over the last month or so in pass protection. And I do think that he's going to be a very good tackle moving forward. Those first two games were phenomenal when they defeated the Carolina Panthers in great fashion when they blew out the Dallas Cowboys. And Talasay Fuaga looked like one of the best tackles in the league at that time. But he's a rookie. You give him time. Trevor Penning, I'm done with Trevor Penning. Trevor Penning is terrible. He's a bust. He's not a good tackle to have. But hopefully Ryan Ramczyk can return. And I have seen offensive linemen in the past deal with knee injuries, and they've returned. I've also seen other offensive linemen like David Bakhtiari for the Green Bay Packers deal with a similar knee injury, and they never came back to play. So you have to be very conscientious of that. With that being said, regardless if Ryan Ramczyk can come back and play or not, because he was one of the best tackles in the NFL before he's dealing with that knee injury, you still build up this offensive line. This offensive line, they need help. Go out there and protect Derek Carr, Spencer Rattler, whoever your quarterback is going to be for the future. You build on this offensive line. And another reason why they should keep Derek Carr, have you not seen this draft quarterback class that's coming in for this season with Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck? A lot of those guys are not ready to play in the NFL right now. And I don't believe that you throw a rookie in this situation is going to make it any better. Hell, look at what happened with Spencer Rattler. And I do believe that Clint Kubiak is a very good offensive coordinator. And speaking of Clint Kubiak, this man had Rashid Shaheed looking like the top deep threat in the NFL that he is. He's a phenomenal player. But he's missed majority of this season dealing with a knee injury. Chris Olave has missed a lot of time dealing with injuries, especially with concussions. You bring in Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He looks like the second version of Rashid Shaheed. You can bring all three of those receivers back next season and make another run. And I know if you're a Saints fan, it's the same song and dance every single season. The one thing that works into running it back with a brand new coach, you're going to have a brand new head coach, hopefully with better plays and a better culture. I really do believe Dennis Allen held this team back for many years. When I go back and I look at the roster from last season, they went 9-8. They had the chance to make the NFL playoffs, but they lost a tiebreaker to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Dennis Allen got out-coached by Todd Bowles. Dennis Allen got out-coached by Dave Canales this season by the Carolina Panthers. They lost that game by a point, and they outplayed the Carolina Panthers in every single way possible. Offensively, defensively, and special teams wise. Hell, even Bryce Young had a weird interception to where the cornerback came out of nowhere and he took the football out of Xavier Legette's hands. But when you look at Dennis Allen, he is just a horrible coach, and I'm happy that he's no longer with the New Orleans Saints. I believe that he held them back a lot, but they have so many holes on this roster. You traded Marshawn Lattimore. That's a great start. Trade off a veteran player that can't stay healthy for you, and you get some mid-round picks back from the Washington Commanders. The man has yet to play a single snap for the Washington Commanders. He just couldn't stay healthy, and he is still dealing with the hamstring injury that he suffered with the New Orleans Saints. Shipping off some of those players are going to be better off with the New Orleans Saints long term. And this is not the toughest division in the NFL. It's not like the New Orleans Saints are playing in the same division with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Denver Broncos, and the Los Angeles Chargers. You're in the division right now. I mean this in the most respectful way to Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Atlanta Falcons, and Carolina Panther fans. This is not the toughest division. This is one of, if not the weakest division in the NFL. I believe they're a head coach away from going out there and being in contention to winning this division. And hiring the right coach is easier said than done, but you have options out there. I look at what Coach Gruden was able to do with the Raiders at the time, and I understand the emails and all those things. That's for a different video in the offseason. Trust me, I'm going to work on that one. But when I look at Coach Gruden, he had the right philosophy with the Raiders before they basically kicked him out the NFL. Is it a chance they could bring him back? We'll see. You also have Aaron Glenn, who's the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. You could bring him in. Ben Johnson, you could bring in him. He's the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions also. It's a lot of good assistants that are up for coaching jobs this season. And I do understand this. Those coaches have to accept the position and they have to come in. But the first thing they should do is evaluate the older talent, move on from a lot of these expiring contracts. Like a guy like Cameron Jordan, you hope that he retires. You have a guy in Tyrann Mathieu, even though he's 32 years old, he is still a very good safety to have on the roster. He's the best safety that they have right now. DeMario Davis has taken a major step back, but he's still a solid linebacker that you could possibly put some pieces around. This is a Saints team. They have good players. This isn't your typical just go out there and blow everything up and rebuild this entire situation. No, they need a reset. Because whether you like Derek Carr or not, and I'm not the biggest Derek Carr fan, he's their best quarterback option right now. You building this offensive line, you get that chemistry down with Chris Olave, with Rashid Shaheed. Derek Carr already has great chemistry with Rashid Shaheed and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You have Juwan Johnson at the tight end position. If he can stay fully healthy, I know that he dealt with so many ankle injuries last season and in the offseason. You have him. You have Foster. Foster at the tight end spot has been very good this season. I understand that he basically lost in the game last year against the Jacksonville Jaguars when he dropped the football late in the game, back of the red zone. They scored that touchdown and they win that game. They're just a couple of plays. They're just a couple of plays away from making the NFL playoffs last season. When I look at the Saints right now, you're not going to go out there and gut the entire roster. That's unrealistic. I know a lot of fans want to see a lot of these aspiring players go elsewhere and just trade everyone like this is a video game. That's not how things work. You do have to take financials into consideration here. And that's the biggest thing with the New Orleans Saints. But go out there, let Mickey Loomis go. He's been the general manager for way too long, since 2000, almost 25 years. It's been a good 25 years for him. Let him walk out the door. You bring in a brand new general manager, bring in a brand new coaching staff, and you go from there. I do also believe they missed out on the opportunity. They should have made Clint Kubiak be the interim head coach. I love Clint Kubiak. I think Clint Kubiak, if he goes out there, he's an interim head coach. He comes in and you look better offensively and the entire team looks better. You know what you have. And the Saints have been competitive this season because of the players that they have. It's just the coaching that's holding them back. They lost to the Los Angeles Rams by 7 points. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the New Orleans Saints moving forward, and what should they do? Would you be in favor of them gutting this entire roster and starting from the ground up, or do you want to see them go out there and run it back with a brand new head coach? And I will say this, the positive side to going out there and running it back with a brand new head coach with the veterans that you have right now, it gives him more clock to work with in terms of him getting fired or not. Because he didn't go out there, he did not bring in Derek Carr. He didn't go out there, he didn't bring in these type of players. So that's another thing you have to take into account also. This could be a long rebuild for the New Orleans Saints when they bring in a brand new coach. So I don't want to see a bunch of Saints fans come out there if they miss the NFL playoffs next season with their new head coach and say, hey, fire him after one season. Now, if he's coaching like Dennis Allen, that's a different story. But you bring in one of those young coordinators at the defensive position, at the offensive position, and you see what you really have with the veterans right now. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about this video? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.